Hello and welcome to EV Car Share. I'm Matt Smith, and here in the UK, September's just coming to an end. We're going into October. It's going to be obviously November, December, January, winter months, and so I think now is a good time to do a heating system video. Maybe a car shouldn't need a YouTube video on how to use its heating system. It should probably be quite self-explanatory, but if you've got the Kia EV6, you may discover it's not quite how it seems, and you may find that this video is quite useful in kind of showing you how it works. So I thought I'd do this video. Hopefully it'll be useful. Let me know in the comments if you have any other opinions, views, or anything to say. That's all good. So I'm going to go onto my little handheld camera because I will need to kind of show you the screen and stuff like that to show you what's happening. So let's turn on video from here. So first of all, on the dashboard you'll be able to see it's 14 degrees outside. Now 14 degrees, it's not cold, it's not winter. This is, as I say, autumn. We just come to the end of September. But 14 degrees is not the temperature that you want to be driving your car at. You want to be driving, I don't know, what's comfortable to you. For me, between 20 and 22 degrees probably. So on the EV6, we have down here, this panel is for the heating system. It is also for the sat-nav infotainment system too. You have this little toggle here. You can toggle between that view where you can see you've got map, nav, tracks, radio, etc. and this screen where you have all your heating. Now, when you toggle this, whichever one you're on, these four on the left, these always stay the same. So you always have the auto climate, the front and rear demist, and the circulation, recirculate function available. When you toggle it, you do notice though as well that the dials, the knobs, whatever you want to call them, they do change as you toggle between the two. So what in the infotainment system is for volume and for scrolling through files and for tuning your radio, things like that, becomes the temperature for passenger, obviously driver on the other side, of your heating system when you've got the heating system on. So I'm going to look just at the heating system, so we'll keep you on this view. Now you'll notice here I have auto climate set. So when you come into the system, let's press this button, will power off the system. So that powers it off. So there's no heating going on at all now. There's no air conditioning, no heating, no fans, no nothing. So from this position, you don't need to press the power on, although you can. You can also just press the auto climate button. And from any other setting or occasion within the heating system, you can still also press the auto climate button to go back to auto climate as the car sees fit. Now in auto climate, that opens up the ability for you to use your temperatures here, so you can adjust your temperature up and down. And you'll notice when you do that the car then chooses either to use the AC, so you can see at the moment I have AC lit, or it uses the heat depending on the need. So at the moment, even though the car tells me it's 14 degrees outside, in here it is above my set of 20 degrees. Now I've got car scanner running, and with car scanner now available through the Apple CarPlay connection, if I go up to my screen, you can see here it's reading back the indoor temperature of 21.5 degrees. So although outdoors is 13.5, indoors is 21.5, and that is why it is now using the AC to keep the temperature at temperature rather than the heat. So the heat refers to the resistance heater, and that takes a lot of energy. So the car will avoid using the resistance heater if it can do so. So if you're at temperature, or if you need a bit of cooling obviously, then it will use the AC to maintain temperature or to cool the temperature down. bringing the heat in when there is need for substantial amount of heating. That keeps, if I go back to my screen, I've got electricity use showing in the side panel. That keeps this value here for your air conditioning heating system to a minimum. So you can see, although ignore the percentages because I've been driving and I've been stationary and things like that. Going for the immediate use right now, you can see we're under half a kilowatt. It's just gone up to half a kilowatt because the system is just using, there you go, back down to just 150 watts ish. Because the system is just using the AC and the fans and so on just to maintain temperature. It's not using the resistive heater. Now, to demonstrate this, and I suggest you do this yourself in your own car just to kind of get a feel for how this works, you can see we have the AC on at 20 degrees. But if I turn the dial all the way up, so if I go all the way up, I'm going 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 degrees, you'll see what happens. So the AC switches off and the heat function turns on. And then if we look at the electricity use, you can see the resistive heater is being turned on. We're up to 1 kilowatt, 1.2, 1.25, 1.3. So you can see it's starting to ramp up that heating with the resistive heater. Now this is the heater that takes quite a lot of energy. So ideally you don't want the resistive heater kicking in, which is why it only kicks in if necessary. And because I've requested 27 degrees, it's deemed it necessary. So you can see we're now up to 2.5 kilowatts. That's quite a lot of energy going to the heating system. If I now come back to the panel and scroll back down, so 23, 22, 21, there you go. So at that point where I've turned to 21, it's switched from heat to AC. What you'll actually find is, although it took me going down to 21 to turn the heat off, if I go back up, 21.5 doesn't turn it back on again, 22 doesn't turn it back on again, 22.5 doesn't turn it back on again, 23 is where it kicked back to turn on again. And if I go back the other way, now it's 22 that's taking it back to AC. So there is a little bit of overlap there. So what you can find is if you turn the temperature down and then back up again, or up and then back down again, you'll get a slight difference between the heat and the AC use here on screen, depending on your needs. Obviously, the most efficient, best way to drive the car is to know what your preferred temperature is. So in my case, 22 is a bit hot. I would probably drive day to day with something around 20, 21 degrees. On a long journey, set 20, 21 degrees, whatever's comfortable for you, and just leave it there. It will then regulate the heat throughout the journey, and that is the more efficient way of doing things. Obviously, the most efficient way of doing things is to turn the entire system off here, but then that's just going to be uncomfortable. So that would be really silly, in my opinion. Obviously, all these things in my opinion. If you have other opinions, then feel free to tell me in the comments. So that's all with auto climate on. Now there are 3 modes to auto climate. You can have auto climate 3, auto climate 2, and auto climate 1. And that just changes how aggressive the heating system is. So how quickly it will respond to your change of requirements, and also how much the fan will turn up. So all of this at the moment I'm doing with the car in eco mode. So we go back to my main dashboard here, you can see I'm in eco mode. Now I use eco mode, one of the reasons I quite like using eco mode, obviously because it's more efficient driving, but also because it allows you to have the low fan speed in auto climate. If I move up to normal mode or sport mode, I find that the noise of the fans is quite a lot. I like to listen to my music, I like to listen to talk radio, I like to chat with people in the car. I don't like the noise of the fans being excessive, so I tend to keep it in eco mode. and find that is sufficient for heating. If you're finding that the heating system isn't good enough in eco mode, maybe there's a problem with your heating system. Obviously that's something that can occur and should be investigated separately if that's the case. Now if you're driving along like this, or you have the system set in auto climate like this, and you tap on either AC or heat, then you are effectively saying, I'm taking control. I'm not going to allow the car and auto climate to control my system. So if I tap on the AC there, you'll notice that the auto climate function goes off. Now I can tap the heat on and off, and I can tap the AC on and off. But because I'm adjusting those functions, it's now moving me away from auto climate. So just one word of warning, if you do decide to turn things on and off, then you may need to go back to auto climate and put the auto climate function back on again to make things work again for you, depending on what you've chosen to turn on and off. You can see here I've turned off heat, I've turned off AC, and if we go up to the screen and have a look at the electricity use, for the heating system it is now reading 0.00 as you'd expect. So we're reading 0 kilowatts here, so the heating system is not using any power at all, even though we still do have the fan speed and I can feel some air. So presumably the fans are being captured in this element of the electricity use here, which is the electronics. Either that or the fans use so little power that they come under 0 on the heating system. It doesn't really matter, but the important thing to show really is that the AC and the resistive heater are both off, so we have 0 kilowatts. Now if we go back to the panel, you will still notice we have values for the requested temperature. So it's possible you can end up with a situation where you've come into the car, you've set auto climate or you've set some heating, you've turned some things off, you've accidentally ended up in this situation here where there is no heating being driven by either the resistive heater or by the AC system. But because you can still see a temperature set and you can still adjust that temperature set, you have this wrong conception that you are adjusting your temperature. So you can now put your temperature right up to 27 degrees. You may even hear, like I am at the moment, hear the fans kicking in stronger in order to create that 27 degrees for you. But because you have the heat and the AC both turned off and you are not using auto climate, you'll notice here in electricity use you get 0 kilowatts. Now you can't get heat for free. You cannot produce heat. I cannot reach 27 degrees with 0 kilowatts. That's just not going to happen. That's impossible. It'd be nice if you could, but it's not going to happen. So this situation here is really quite deceptive, and I think Kia really, once you've turned off heat and AC, this value should disappear. It should really be a dash in both of these values, because you effectively turned off the heating system. So you can't expect the heating system to produce the value that you're asking for. It's just not going to happen. So in that situation, you can just tap back onto auto climate as you prefer, and that will kick back in the appropriate AC or heat depending on what the internal cabin currently is and what your external temperature is, in order to make your car the appropriate warmth you've selected. Other things that are useful to know: if you're on the heat like this on auto climate and you're finding that it's let's say it's a rainy day, quite cold outside, and especially if you have a full cabin of people or if you have a dog and you're breathing out lots of moist warm air, you may find your windscreen steams up. That's because the resistive heater is running, the aircon is not running, and so what you have is a buildup of humidity. There is supposed to be a dehumidify automatic mode in the settings, or there is, but I find that doesn't work particularly well, and sometimes you have to take control of the situation yourself. In this situation, what you can do is you can turn on the AC, so the heat is already on, tap the AC as well. That runs both the resistive heater and the air conditioning unit together at the same time. Now, because you've tapped on one of these buttons, you will notice that your auto climate goes off, but that's fine. You're taking control manually here, and because you have both functions on, what you'll find is you still get the temperature you need, but you also get the dehumidifying effect of the AC. So just because you have AC, that's not air cooling, that's air conditioning. It conditions your air, it doesn't have to be a cooling function. And so what you'll find is that it will heat up to your requested temperature, but it will do it without the humidity that's going to steam up your windows. And you can see if we go to the electricity use here, at 2.4 at the moment, the resistive heat is clearly running. It's clearly heating things up, because that's quite a high load for the heating system. In fact, this is the kind of thing the car does itself when you press the demist front windscreen function over here. So you can see if we go back to the auto climate mode, I'm currently on heat only at 24 degrees. Let me turn that down a bit and get a bit warm in here. If I was wanting to clear the windscreen with a clear it as soon as possible mode, then we have the demist function over here. If I tap on the demist front windscreen function, then what it does is it puts on the AC, turns the fans up to 8, and if the temperature needs it, it will put on the heat as well. Now, because my cabin's already really hot from all these examples I've been giving, it hasn't put on the heat. But you'll see if I increase the temperature in this mode, it has put on the heat, and it has not turned off the AC. So whereas before, on auto climate, it will turn off the AC when it turns on the heat, in demisting mode here, it will not turn off the AC. It will always leave the AC on, and then the heat will go on or off depending on the temperature you've selected with your dial. So this could be a good mode if you're regularly finding that you're steaming up the windscreen. The only problem for me is, again, it's this high fan speed. You put it onto this mode and the fan speed goes really high. Of course, you can, if you want to, turn that down, and you're staying in this mode, so you'll always still have your AC even if you turn it up high enough to need heat. So for maximum demisting of the windscreen, use your demist function over here. If it's too noisy, you can then turn your fans down, or use the AC function and make sure you turn the AC on if it's not on because of the heat difference. Rear demister is just like any other car, so that is an electrical resistance heater in the glass of the rear window, and the recirculation, again, like any other car, just recirculates the air internally rather than bringing air in from the outside. Also, like any other car, again, if you adjust your passenger side temperature, then it will turn off the sink, and you'll have dual zone climate where your passenger has a different temperature to your driver. In this mode, turning the driver will not affect the passenger unless you press sync to bring it back into synchronizing the two, in which case it will turn the passenger to what the driver is in order to synchronize them, which is kind of what you would expect, really. There is also a driver only function which turns off the heating system for the passenger and just focuses on the driver only. Personally, I've never really used that. I don't see the need. Okay, so back to the main camera. That's all I've got for today. Just a quick run through really of how the heating system works, with a bit of data from the screens with regard to electricity use and some of the temperatures that feed back from car scanner. One thing I will be doing in future, well, assuming I have time and availability, is to look more into the car scanner values. There's a lot of information in car scanner. You can pull back the humidity value, you can pull back the temperatures at the vents and things like that. And I want to see kind of some of the little intricacies of the heating system here, in terms of making it do what I want it to do. And yeah, then I will report back with a video, of course. So hopefully this has been useful. If it has, then please give it the thumbs up, please give a comment, and of course subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. This has been Matt Smith for EV Car Share. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you next time.